Hello, I'm April Pope, Certified Plan Fiduciary Advisor for Retirement Plan Partners, and we're excited to bring you this training today to share with you the important duties you have as a plan sponsor for your organization's retirement plan. By sponsoring a 401k or a 403b plan, you've made an important investment in helping secure the future of your organization's most valuable assets, your employees. Many employers offer a retirement plan savings vehicle without being fully aware of their fiduciary responsibilities and the risks and liability that can accompany 401k and 403b plans. As a plan sponsor and a plan fiduciary, you have taken on certain responsibilities intended to protect the plan's participants and their beneficiaries, which were established by the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974, or ERISA. And these are monitored by the U.S. Department of Labor, so it's very important that you understand what your responsibility is. This is why we at Retirement Plan Partners are providing this training and the guide that accompanies it to all of our plan sponsors to help you understand these responsibilities and how to effectively manage the retirement plan you offer your employees. You'll also learn about certain services that can assist you with your fiduciary obligations. So, let's get started. All right, so in today's training, I'm going to walk you through what you need to know about managing your plan as a fiduciary. This will include, of course, what is a fiduciary, what are the basic fiduciary responsibilities, how ERISA Section 404C can help limit that liability, the importance of documentation, why you need an investment policy statement, how to approach the investment selection and monitoring process, what you need to communicate to participants, and finally, your plan administration responsibilities. Don't worry about frivolously taking down notes. We do have a brochure that has all of this information that will accompany this training as well. So feel free to enjoy and follow along. All right. So as a plan fiduciary, one of your responsibilities is to ensure that your 401k or 403b plan complies with the standards of the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974, most often known as ERISA, and all of its amendments that come along with it. ERISA is the federal law that governs certain aspects of most private qualified retirement plans. So what is a plan fiduciary? Well, that's anyone who is named in the plan document as a fiduciary or is appointed as one. Also, this could be anyone who exercises discretionary authority or control over the plan assets or the management of the plan. Finally, someone who provides investment advice for compensation with respect to those plan assets. So plan fiduciaries have the responsibility for the administration of the plan and the selection of the investment options. Every plan has to have at least one named fiduciary, and it's been our experience that the plan sponsor, whoever's sponsoring the 401k or 403b plan, the organization, is generally a named fiduciary. The retirement plan investment committee members are also considered fiduciaries. The same holds true for the plan administrator or the trustee or the investment managers. So, fiduciary standards of conduct. Generally, ERISA has a standard of conduct that applies to all fiduciary actions. So fiduciaries have these duties: loyalty, to act solely in the interests of the plan participants and their beneficiaries. That's what this plan is here for. It is the responsibility of the fiduciary to act in their best interest. Prudence. That means to act with care, skill, and prudence and diligence of a prudent person who has experience dealing with similar situations. So fiduciaries are not required to be experts. I think this is very important right here. You don't have to be an expert in every area of retirement plan management. You can also hire outside advisors, attorneys, accountants, administrators, all kinds of people you can help you with your fiduciary responsibilities. So you don't have to be an expert, but you are responsible for finding the experts that can help you. After prudence, then we have our diversification. So to diversify the investments of the plan in order to provide participants with an opportunity to have potential different returns. So different returns and risk levels are important to have in your fund lineup. You must follow the plan documents. That's what they're there for. They are legal documents, so to administer the plan in accordance with all the documents is the responsibility of the fiduciary. Pay reasonable fees and expenses, and I want to talk about this. Reasonable does not mean least expensive. It is just the responsibility of the fiduciary to evaluate the reasonableness of the fees and charges paid by the plan, taking into account the level of service received. So it doesn't have to be the least expensive, it just needs to be reasonable for the service that you are getting. Keep that in mind. Let's talk about this 404C. So how can you limit your liability with Section 404C? So when you see this here, just like all the other acronyms or codes, IRS codes, 404C provides limited relief from fiduciary liability for retirement plans with participants who have independent control over their plan investments. It allows the responsibility for investment losses to shift from the plan fiduciary to the participant, so long as certain requirements are met. So what this really means is by letting your participants choose their investments from the list that you provide, they are the ones that are selecting them. So that's how you're not saying you have to go into this fund, you have to do this. You are allowing your participants to choose that. So that's how you're able to limit that liability from the investment losses, because you're allowing participants to choose those. So in order to follow under the 404C requirements, you have to offer the participants at least 3 diversified investment options. You need to inform the participants that your plan intends to comply, and this is through a notice that goes out with 404C. You also need to provide sufficient investment information to plan participants so they can make the informed decisions. We also want to make sure you offer plan participants the opportunity to give investment instructions and receive written communication. And you want to give participants the ability to change their investments at least quarterly. It can be more often, but you at least want to make sure they can make those changes quarterly. Of course, it's always communication is so important. So you want to make sure you communicate to the plan participants when your plan adopts any new provisions. Very important. All right, so now we're going to transition into the 5 steps to deliver on your responsibilities. Ideally, you set yourself up with a due diligence file, so documenting your decisions. When you set up this due diligence file that you'll want to establish for your company's retirement plan, if you don't have one, now is a really good time to start one. In this file, document decisions you make about your retirement plan. So this will serve as evidence that you've satisfied your fiduciary requirements, and you want to make sure you keep this information for a minimum of 6 years. All right, number 2, establish an investment policy statement. So what this is, an IPS is another thing you might hear it called. It's the foundation for the plan's investment decisions. It establishes objectives for managing the plan's investments, including criteria for investment selection or how you evaluate or monitor investments. And using an IPS enables a more disciplined and systematic approach in your decision making. So although an IPS is not explicitly required under IRS, the DOL has issued guidance stating that having an IPS is consistent with helping carry out your fiduciary responsibilities in compliance with legal guidelines. It also helps shield fiduciaries from complaints and potential legal action. Having that IPS also helps create a clear, comprehensive record that demonstrates your prudent planning and procedures. The IPS can also help establish a framework for determining the selection, monitoring, and termination of plan investments. So if you're reviewing the investments, you want to have something that says how you review them as a plan committee. All right, number 3, select investment options. This is 3 of 5 steps to deliver on your responsibilities. Your next step is to choose your investment options that are consistent with the objectives set forth in that IPS. So Section 404C we talked about before, that regulation explains that participant-directed plans, such as 401ks, 403bs, should offer a broad range of investment alternatives. In effect, a plan's investment options should be diverse enough to provide participants with the opportunity to choose from at least 3 core investment alternatives, each of which have different risk and return characteristics. You want to make sure they have diversified investments in order to minimize the risk of large losses. And now we're going to go right into number 4 about monitoring these investments. So we've gotten the list of investments based on the IPS. Now how are we going to monitor them? So fiduciaries typically choose to either handle this responsibility themselves or hire an independent investment advisor to prepare the reports for and assist in the reviews of these monitoring the investments. So you may have heard of a 321, a co-fiduciary, or a 338, a full fiduciary. And when you are looking at your plan and pricing out your plan, you may want to think of adding one of these to your plan if you don't want to take on the responsibility, the full responsibility. You're always going to be the fiduciary, but take on that full responsibility of monitoring the investments. Finally, number 5, communicating to participants. Plan fiduciaries need to provide participants with a summary plan description, a written notice that you intend to follow Section 404C, a statement of material modifications and summary annual report. There's more. Don't worry. A general description of investment objectives and risk and return characteristics of each fund. Instructions on who to contact to give investment instructions and specific limitations. And all of this, the above information, is not a comprehensive list of everything. Make sure we always have to say, consult your legal or tax advisor for more information. But know that either yourself, the record keeper, or if you're using a third-party administrator, will help you get all of these required disclosures out to your participants and make sure they're out timely. So this is more of a checklist to make sure you know what you're responsible for getting out to the participants. So now that we've completed the 5 steps to deliver on your responsibilities, we're going to wrap up this training with what to do to manage your administrative responsibilities. Just as you're responsible for oversight of investment decisions for your plan, you're also responsible for monitoring the administrative aspects of your plan. Your third-party administrator, if you use one, helps by overseeing your plan documentation, compliance, and administrative services. Fiduciaries selecting 401k plan service providers should also consider the type and quality of service offered compared to the plan's service needs. So TPAs have a menu of services and TPA is a third-party administrator. They have a menu of services. So you may use some, you may use all, maybe only a few, and you want to make sure that you just review those, see what services you're getting. If they're mailing out disclosures, it's going to be more expensive because they have to pay for postage. So as long as a fiduciary, you realize that that is a service that you need and it will be helpful, that is a reasonable expense. So the review, you should look at the number of available investment options. You should look at loan services they offer, live client service representatives, telephone, voice responses, all of these things, participant communication, education programs, reporting services, and the fees and expenses that the plan is going to pay for these. So once your plan is established and on an ongoing basis, ERISA imposes a number of reporting and disclosure requirements for you. For example, plan fiduciaries have to file an annual report or a Form 5500 with the government each year. You have to obtain a ERISA fidelity bond of at least 10% of plan assets for the individuals who handle the plan funds. This is not the same as liability, D&O, errors and omissions, insurance. I do want to make a point here to say, in addition to the fidelity bond, it's strongly encouraged that you look into fiduciary coverage through your insurance agent to have fiduciary protection. There is no what they call corporate veil, meaning you can't just blame a fiduciary breach on the organization. It is a personal liability. So you want to make sure that you have some kind of personal fiduciary liability insurance coverage if you are signing off as a fiduciary for the plan. We strongly suggest that. You also want to arrange to have an independent CPA to audit the plan annually if your plan has more than 100 participants, and submit deferrals on a timely basis. Generally, this means, when we say deferrals, the employee's contributions, the employee's money must be deposited as soon as administratively feasible, but no later than the 15th business day of the month following the month which they had the money withheld from their paychecks. This is a common fiduciary oversight that you really want to make sure you avoid. So if participants are having money withheld from their paychecks, that needs to get into their account and get invested as soon as feasibly possible. All right, well, that covers the material that we have for today. Remember, by taking on the role of plan sponsor and fiduciary of your qualified retirement plan, you are providing your employees an opportunity to accumulate the funds they will need for a secure retirement. It's very important. And with that commitment comes responsibility for properly overseeing the plan. Be assured that there are plenty of resources available to help you, and all of the information in the training today is also covered in the brochure that we've provided you as well. Thank you again for taking time with us today with Retirement Plan Partners, and don't forget to email us and let us know that you've completed the training so we can send you a certificate. Thanks again for your time. Have a great day.